How's AJ been since it?
I mean, I think the thing with AJ is you don't get confused with his humbleness in defeat.
I think you might be leaning on your own mute button there. Don't mute yourself.
There you go. I'm on,
Go on, say it again.
There's a lot of people probably like to mute me, but tough. I'm taking it off. I think that AJ, his humbleness in defeat, I think he feels a responsibility to act like that. It couldn't be further away from reality, and actually I'd like him to maybe lose some of that humbleness sometimes, but that's just, he says, look, I can't expect to be like this when I win and then just sulk when I lose, but he's sulking. That's the reality. I mean, I've been with him a couple of times. He's fixated with the mistakes he made. He's frustrated. He's disappointed. He's gutted. All he can think about is how he can improve. He's always like that anyway. He got the game plan wrong. He didn't box great. Was his preparations good enough? I think that's something he'll analyse. But again, you have to look at Usyk as well, and you say he was brilliant. And I said to AJ the other day, people are now saying Usyk may be pound for pound number one. It's either Usyk or Canelo, right? So you've just lost a decision to a pound for pound great. Don't beat yourself up. But the only frustrating thing is we know he can do so much better. And the rematch, which he will go into, it's a real tough fight, but he wouldn't want it any other way. And like Gabby says, AJ is fixated on looking at these greats of the past. They've all suffered defeats to great fighters and they've all come back. So, he's a 2-time heavyweight world champion and now he looks to try and become a 3-time heavyweight world champion. But I think he should be applauded for taking on the challenges of an Usyk, because no one really wants to fight him, but he believed he can beat him. He got it wrong on the night, but also maybe he just got beaten by, he did get beaten by the better man, and what was a genius performance.
Just a really quick one before we go to the break, because I wanted to know about that potential rematch. It's rumoured to be in Ukraine February 2022, which is obviously when we were expecting AJ Fury to potentially be. Is it going to be in Ukraine? Is that where it...
I doubt it, to be honest with you. I mean, I've nothing wrong with Ukraine. It's lovely. I'm not sure what it's like in February, but I think I'd like to do it back in the UK. But we'll sit down with Usyk's team and we'll look at the options. We've had a couple of international offers come in for that rematch as well. I said to AJ the other day, are you sure you don't lose these fights deliberately just to have these massive rematches? And it's a huge fight again, but I'd love to do it back in the UK, probably March, April. And it's a fight he must win.
I think, Ali, you had a question.
I have. I tell you what I am with Eddie. I was fascinated with the fight last week. I thought Usyk was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant from start to finish. Maybe he was allowed to be. You might tell me that, and I think there's a certain degree that he was. But in terms of moving forward for AJ, I was concerned watching that particular fight more than I was, believe it or not, the Ruiz Jr. one, because I think, as you said earlier, at that level, one punch can knock you out. And I thought he got hit with one with Ruiz Jr. Whereas I thought for the vast majority of the fight the other night, he was outboxed by somebody who was, and you mentioned that he might be one of the pound for pound in the world, but he just looked a different level of boxing intelligence, and that worried me a little bit for AJ.
I think, but then you look at it like that, Ali, and you say that is the case, right? Usyk is another level of boxing intelligence to anyone. So what's the last thing you do? Box him, right? And try and outbox him, try and be more intelligent than him. And for some reason, AJ had in his head, maybe out of stubbornness or a little bit of ignorance as well, that he could outbox him. Worst decision ever.
Yep.
The only way you're going to beat Usyk is to use your size, use your attributes. AJ is one of the most devastating punchers out there with great combination punching, speed, everything. You've got to back him up, you've got to beat him up. But these are all the things that, maybe he knew he had to do, but he chose... he thought he could outbox Usyk, which was a disastrous strategy, quite frankly. And listen, in the rematch, there's no secrets. He's going to fight exactly the opposite. He's going to probably come in heavier. He's going to come in, he's going to try and bulldoze him, beat him up. Now, Usyk's comments after the fight, I was hurt a few times in the fight. And he was, from nothing. When AJ gets hold of him, it'll be a different story. But... it's like Tyson Fury. You've got to get hold of him. It's like looking at the fight this weekend and saying, Wilder's got the power. You've got to set those shots up. You've got to get your feet in position. But if you overthink things like AJ did, you never get that opportunity to do that. So he's got to be ruthless, not completely reckless, but he was outboxed. And he's not going to outbox Usyk. This is what it's got to be drummed into him in camp. He loves watching these old fighters and this, the sweet science and all this. Forget it. If the AJ that boxed Vladimir Klitschko boxed Usyk the other night, I believe he wins. So he's got to go back to that devastating style, which made him what he is. I said to him the other day, don't be disappointed. Like, he's improved so much as a boxer, but right now, that's the last thing we need.
Is he in the same boat, Eddie, just now, a little bit as Wilder, in the respect that their next fights are absolutely imperative for them?
Massive. I mean, he's still only had, 25, 26 fights. So he's got another 4 or 5 years, but you never want back-to-back defeats. And, people say now, should he take the rematch? Are you going to take... It's a shot at the world heavyweight title. It's like, this defeat was extremely frustrating, but the one against Ruiz was humiliating, quite frankly. Sold out Madison Square Gardens. He went down, 5-6 times. He had to keep getting up. It was the shock. People were looking at Ruiz saying, how can you lose to this guy? So he's come back from much, much tougher. And a game plan was instilled in him for the rematch that he executed perfectly. Now they've got to get it tactically right in this rematch to overcome Usyk. 1,000,000% he can beat him, but he's got to get it right. And if he doesn't, he will not beat him. So, it's exciting. And again, it's all on the line again. And, like I said, for him, it's history to become a 3-time heavyweight world champion. And stranger things have happened. You win that fight, all of a sudden the Undisputed's back on. I don't know, Wilder might win at the weekend, and then he's got to fight Dillian White, or Dillian White fights Tyson Fury. I mean, it's exciting times. And although we're not going to get what we wanted straight off the bat, we're still in the game. And if you're in the game, you've got a chance. And as long as we see great fights, then, we should be happy.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods, Monday to Wednesday morning 6 till 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.